This is John for Global Traveler. Today I have the pleasure of talking travel with Emmy-winning author Theresa Goodrich. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, John?
I'm good. As we said before we started, I almost met you at the Travel and Adventure Show, but at least I got to set up the interview. I'm very happy to do that, and
Mhm.
I'd like to get a little bit of your background. I know that you did some road trips with your family. Your dad was an artist. You did a few road trips
Mhm.
when you were young.
Yes.
When did your passion for travel get ignited?
That was pretty much, as a child, because my dad was an artist, so we would, pile into the back of the van and dr travel to his art fairs. And this was back in the, late 70s, early 80s. So it was just, Mad Libs and books and looking out the window and, trying not to fight with my brother because that's what you do when you're on a road trip.
Of course, been there.
And not have dad pull the car over. So that was really it. I would just remember I've always been an avid reader and driving, across the country, and I just wondered, so I wanted to know the stories about the places we passed, even in Kansas.
There's a story everywhere, as you've proven. So,
Yes,
when
yes.
did you decide to make travel your career?
Well, it really happened when I moved to Chicago. So I got my degree in journalism, but I knew at the time I did not want to write for a paper because I moved to downtown Chicago and I knew I could wait tables and make more than I could doing the city beat or the obits. Plus, I'm a wanted to be a happy writer. And sometimes, the journalism can be, I originally thought I was going to go into investigative journalism, and that was a little too hard on my psyche. So I just decided, okay, I ended up moving to Chicago and fell in love with the city. Just absolutely fell in love with it. And so I had the idea for the name The Local Tourist because I was a local, but I was being a tourist.
I love
And I
it.
was really surprised that there were so many people who live in tourist destinations become so used to everything around them that they don't really see what's in their backyard. So that was the foundation of the site. I started off with just my one neighborhood, River North, and then I expanded it downtown. So as I got to know the city more, I expanded what I was covering more. And then finally in 2016, I ended up um, digging more into just travel in general. I was on a press trip for a morel media hunt in Galena at Eagle Ridge Resort and Spa. They would every
Oh yeah.
May they'd have a bunch of writers come out and we'd hunt for morels and have a whole morel themed weekend. And on this first trip that I went out there, I overheard a couple other writers talking about this group called the Midwest Travel Bloggers. And I just thought, oh, what is this? And it was a Facebook group, and that actually just really jump-started me switching more to travel than just Chicago. I had been all Chicago from 2002 until 2016. And then in 2016, end of 2016 is really when I started branching out. And in 2017, the first part of the year, my husband and I took our first month plus long road trip. And that's all she wrote.
You're so right about the local tourism. I've lived in Chicago my whole life. I love Chicago. I've
Mhm.
checked out a lot of things in Chicago, but until I started at Global Traveler 21 years ago,
Mhm.
that kind of made me look at Chicago differently and check out things like in your book, which actually was very helpful to me, Chicago Landmarks. Very helpful to me. I got a lot of ideas out of your book. I love the book. I
Great.
also love your writing. I think one of the cool things about what you do, and we're going to get into all of it, but like your
Mhm.
Two Lane Gems series, I think one of the cool things is that there's a little bit of silliness, there's a little bit of quirkiness.
Mhm.
There's history, there's travel, and there's kind of like a personal connection. You
Mhm.
kind of combine everything really nicely. How did you come across, how did you decide to go in that direction?
For the Two-Lane Gems books, well, I'd always wanted to write a book ever since I could read books that didn't have any pictures in them. And for that particular book, I wanted to write it as a memoir style. I had a couple of ideas. I wanted to show that people are kind and generally speaking, for the mo and because we encountered so many people on our travels. And I also really wanted to showcase the diversity of the landscape of this country. And because we were basically in a new place each day, then we could see it was gradual, but it was also very fast on how we'd go from the plains to deserts to mountains to then to the ocean. So it just felt like this very it was a dichotomy, basically. It was a quick but also very slow.
Sure.
And I just wanted to, I thought if I wrote it chronologically and put in a little bit of humor because I feel like life is meant to be enjoyed. And I love history. I'm a huge history buff, as you now know, with Living Landmarks of Chicago. I like finding the stories that make a place what it is. And so just working on, trying to blend all of those together was a lot of fun and um I I'm glad you like
Well,
it.
no, absolutely. The Two Lane Gems, that's a series now. You have two books out on that already?
I have two books. Those are my first two books, and I'm this year I will be writing my third, and it's based on a 3-week solo trip that I took
Oh,
in 2022, and it was my first time. I've car camped before, but it was my first time tent camping, and it was a real transition period for me because at that point I'd completed breast cancer treatment the summer prior, so this was.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It really was a transition period for me to take those 3 weeks and set up a tent all by myself and camp all by myself. And so I'm excited to start writing about that one.
Well, I look forward to that one.
Mhm.
So, in all your travels, I'm going to put you on the spot now. This is a tough question. Name two or three spots that just really like completely blew you away for whatever reason.
One is, and people are always surprised by this, just like I was when I went there, was Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Um, I first visited in August of 2021, and it's the Malibu of the Midwest, freshwater surfing capital of the world. Fantastic food. It's got a vibrant art scene, and it just really blew me away. And I love staying at the Blue Harbor because it's right there on Lake Michigan. So, you wake up to the sunrise, and I was there last October and got to see the Northern Lights. I mean, it's
Oh,
just one of my favorite places. But another place, and it didn't really surprise me as much as, I mean, as Sheboygan did, but it's because, anyway, Glacier National Park. And that going to the Sun Road was just phenomenal. And I've always loved the mountains. Every time I go west and I see the snow on the peaks, it just makes my heart race a little bit. And so to drive this going to the Sun Road, which has only one switchback on the entire thing, and just the marvel of it, the absolute marvel of how they carved this road out of this, inhospitable landscape, basically, just really fascinated me. And we were only there for it was 3 days, 2 nights, and we did camp, which I always recommend. If you're going to go to a national park, either camp or stay in the lodge,
agreed.
if they've got one. Yeah, just because it's better. That way you can get to the really popular areas first before the tour buses
Absolutely.
come in. But anyway, so I love Glacier. I definitely want to go back. I know a lot of the glaciers themselves are disappearing, and there are fewer there than there were even 10 years ago. So I want to get back. Plus, it's an international peace park. It shares a border with Park Waterton, which is in Canada. So that's just all
Wait,
sorts of good
oh,
stuff.
sorry. So obviously you're a writer, so you've got certain things in mind. But when you
Mhm.
go on a trip like that, how much is like percentage, how much is planned and how much do you kind of go and just let's see what we find here?
It's a blend of both. I Let's see, I went to London for the first time in December of 23, and that was pretty planned because I'd never been there before, and it was my first international flight. And I just wanted to make sure that I was, making the most of my time. When we have gone on these longer trips, a lot of it is unplanned. Like we'll just see how far we can drive that day, get on, Expedia or Priceline and see what hotel is right there, and then just find a place to sleep for the night. And that's pretty much all it is. We also tend to be, I say we because I travel with my husband most of the time on these longer trips. Um, but when I travel solo as well, I always leave room for historical markers and random stops because you're always going to find random stops. Like we were in Yuma, Arizona, and heard about Salvation Mountain, which is just east of the Salton Sea.
Okay.
And so we had to stop there, and then we also had to stop at Felicity, California, town of population of 2.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's considered the geographical center of the world. There's a whole story behind that because the French government said it because there was a world famous parachutist who was French who started this town and named it for his wife,
Okay.
Felicia. So anyway, so those are the
Cool.
kinds of I want to allow time for things like that. I didn't know anything about it until we talked to some locals in Yuma who said, "Oh, you're heading to San Diego. You need to stop here and here." And if everything's too tightly packed, then you can't, take advantage of those kinds of experiences.
So how has travel changed you?
It's definitely made me more aware. Uh, it's more grateful. Just the people that I've met in my travels. And we may have one interaction and never going to meet them again, but that memory sticks with me. And like meeting these volunteers at Heseda Head Lighthouse, and it was a husband and wife team, and we had interactions that lasted maybe 5 minutes with the wife and then 5 minutes with the husband. But I can remember them 7 years later, or actually now 8 years later, like it was yesterday. And so those are the kinds of things that stick out to me. It's just the people you meet, and um, that's seeing the natural beauty is wonderful, and seeing fantastic architecture and learning the history is great. But it's the people that really make travel really special to me.
Well, now I'll reverse the question because obviously you have. So let's
hmm
put humbleness aside. How have you changed travel?
I feel like I have. That's a fantastic question, and like, oh, how have I changed travel? For the people for my readers and my subscribers, they've found new destinations that they would not have been aware of. I think I have opened a lot of them up to the possibility of just the wonder that there's wonder everywhere, that every single place has a story. So they know that I feel very strongly that if you're bored, it's only because you choose to be. And you can find someplace and something to do and a story anywhere you go. Doesn't matter how small the place is or how large it is. So I feel like that's if I can have an influence, that then I hope that's part of it to really see the value in every place you visit. And also talking to the locals. I actually tend to be kind of introverted, but I feel like it's really important to, if you're eating lunch somewhere, ask the server, where do you take your friends when they're, family when they're coming to visit? And just spreading that kindness wherever you go and that acceptance and, that's really important to me. And I hope I've been able to impact people in that direction.
I have no doubt. As a veteran of thousands of miles of travel, what are
hmm
the one or two things that you must have, must bring with you on your trip, aside from it, your writing stuff?
hmm My patience.
That's a that's an interesting answer.
Well, what I like to say that, especially with road trips or travel in general, it's like a wedding. Something's going to go wrong, but it's just be patient, be flexible, and just remember that you're doing this to have fun. So even if you get caught in, traffic in downtown Chicago and you thought you were going to miss it, or, then make sure you've got podcasts or something to listen to, or just embrace the chaos, as I like to say. If you're going to Costco on a Saturday, embrace the chaos. I feel like it's the same way with trips. Something else that I always have to have with me is a pen and paper. Um, that's because, and not just because I'm a writer, but just jotting down one single line about something you've done will help you to remember it later. And you don't want to go on these trips to just, forget later or just look at your pictures and not remember what you've seen. So having that, something to write it down with is incredibly important to me. And if I may mention a third, maps,
Sure.
paper maps.
I love that. Old school.
Yep. Well, phones fail. Your screen could crack, your battery could die, you could lose GPS. I mean, I just feel like it's a good idea to always have maps on you just in case.
I agree completely with that.
Mm.
What is next for you?
This year, I don't really have a lot planned, and that's intentional because last year I didn't think I'd traveled that much and I traveled for 83 days. And the year before
Oh,
I was on the road for 92 or 93 days. And the year before that was when I had finished my cancer treatment. So I'm just like, I think this year I'm just kind of leaving it open. I have some ideas of where I'd like to go. I'd like to visit New England. I'm going to, this will air after tomorrow, correct?
yes.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
because tomorrow I'm surprising a friend of mine in Sheboygan actually at her book launch party. But other than that, I really just don't have much scheduled, and that's the way, and I'm very pleased with that. I will be traveling. I just don't have anything really scheduled right now.
Okay. So before I let you go, tell
Mhm.
everybody where they can find out more information about you and your books.
Well, they can find more about my travel writing at thelocaltourist.com, and that is where that's my primary outlet for my travel writing. And I also have all of my books, including my fiction. I write novels. And the protagonist is a travel writer. So they're murder mysteries. She finds dead bodies. I don't. So, but those are all
Hopefully.
it. Yeah. Yet. Hopefully that won't happen. But those are all it. All my books, my store is at teresasbooks.com.
I have one more question for you
Mhm.
because I was going to congratulate you on your defeating cancer. It's an amazing accomplishment. God bless you for doing that. Um, but you're such a positive person. You've got so much going on. You've done so much stuff. So I have to ask this:
Mhm.
who will play you in your movie of your life story? Your life story has to be made. So who plays you?
Um, well, I have been told for years that I look a lot like Nicole Kidman or so I think Nicole Kidman would be great to play me.
All right. Well, we'll get that done. We'll start working on that.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Teresa, it's been a blast, and I enjoyed,
Thank
like I
you.
said, I enjoyed. It's almost like a handy book for me. Anytime I'm looking for a place to check out downtown or
Yay.
in the area, I do go back to this and look at it like a reference book is what I was trying to say. But
Excellent.
I
Awesome.
also love your website. I am actually going to pick up the books. I until I met you at the show, I didn't realize you had those other books. So I'm going
Mhm.
to be one of your latest customers.
Great.
But I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you do for travel. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you for what you do for travel as well.
Okay. Mutual Admiration Society.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.